everyone. This is Fraser Valley Focus, and I'm your host, Peggy. And today we're talking all about reducing the amount of plastic in our lives. Last year, my family and I did a little experiment. For about a month, we saved all of our plastic bags and wrappers, packaging bottles, and more. We saved all types of plastics, everything from yogurt containers to blister packs on electronics, cling film, everything. We separated foil and metals, paper packaging separately, and we measured what we use in about a month. It was truly shocking. The pile of plastic overwhelmed my back porch. I'm sure my neighbors weren't very happy with me, and it spilled out of the blue bin and was enough to fill about 6 recycling bins, plus some clear blue bags. And that experiment demonstrated very clearly to me just how much plastic we really use. While some plastic use is absolutely necessary and saves lives, such as in the medical field, others are totally optional. So what if you could reduce your plastic by 20%, 50%? What if our ultimate goal was to reduce our plastic by over 90%? So here to talk to us today about this very real possibility is a woman who puts her money where her mouth is. With her husband, she's the owner of a new retail store that not only offers refillable packaging on things like bulk foods, but also things like shampoo, household cleaners, coffee, and much more. They also own and operate a commercial composting company that picks up from stores and residential developments. Please welcome the owner of the zero waste grocery store, Pick Eco Refills in Chilliwack, Salina Derish. Welcome, Salina.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you for having me today.
So what was your first introduction to the idea of waste reduction at this scale, or plastic-free shopping? Perhaps that can help other people ease into this idea, because sometimes it can sound difficult or expensive. So let's talk about what the first gateway drug was for reducing plastic for you.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. So the first time I ever kind of shopped low waste was a few years ago, and it was at a store called the Soap Dispensary in Vancouver. So the reason I went there was not actually even about reducing waste at the time. It was because I knew that I could get exactly the amount of product that I needed. So I was making some of my own products because I had found out that I was allergic to a common preservative. So I was able to go there and get like a couple tablespoons of this or a few mils of that, rather than having to buy a larger amount of it that might just sit in my cupboard and go bad.
Gotcha.
It was around that time. Yeah, it was around that time that I heard the term zero waste and kind of started looking into that. And it definitely does sound daunting at first, but I think that it can be broken down into smaller, more attainable bits.
Absolutely. And for someone who really wants to make change, like myself, but maybe some people find it difficult to think about, how can we start? What are some small baby steps?
Yeah, definitely. So the first thing that I usually tell people is to just buy less. So the most sustainable product that we can buy is nothing at all. And so, a good example of that is if you're looking to purchase something rather than just going out to the store and buying it brand new, where it's the resources that go into making it and the plastic packaging that's going to come with it. First, try and see if you can borrow it from somebody or if you can buy it used. I find actually borrowing is a great way because you can find out if this is a product that you actually need in your life before you make the investment into purchasing it.
So first step, beg, borrow, or steal. But second step, what else can people do?
Definitely. So the second step that I usually tell people to kind of work on is just to pick one small thing. And I mean, that's going to be different for everybody because we're all starting from different places. So for me, a few years ago, my first step was to not get takeout cups anymore. So if I was going to go through, go to a coffee shop, to not get disposable takeout cups. So if I was going out for coffee and I forgot a reusable mug, then I would sit down at a cafe and drink out of one of their mugs. Or I would go ahead and just skip it that day. And you only do that once or twice before you start to remember to bring your cup. And I totally understand that during COVID that this is not always possible. And I think we've all had to make some changes. But, overall, I do believe in taking small steps that are attainable and sustainable. So attainable means that it's something that you are able to do. And sustainable means that you're able to do it long term. So I'd rather people take little baby steps towards sustainability than try to do everything all at once, have it feel overwhelming, and then give up in a couple of months.
Good point. Something I've always been curious about, because nobody uses plastic grocery bags in grocery stores anymore. That's a great start, but it feels like there's a lot further to go in terms of packaging. So why is the use of plastics in retail packaging not regulated? It seems like this is ignored and left to individual manufacturers to self-regulate, which we know historically does not always go well. So why is it something that's not given more attention?
That is a really complicated question.
Okay.
And I think that, I think that I would love for there to be regulations that come from the government on, what types of packaging people can use. And we are starting to see that come out where, there's going to be plastic bag bans and straw bans. But at the end of the day, I think that the government is just not going to step in to the extent that they need to. But I will say that consumer habits really can drive change. And, I've had people say to me like, well, this product has already been made. So, even if I don't buy it, it's already out there. But at the end of the day, these big companies are not going to continue making things that we're not buying.
That's absolutely
they
right.
are driven. Yeah, they are driven by their profits. So if we as consumers can change, and again, I do not feel that the onus is completely on us to change things. I do feel that large companies and corporations and the government do need to also do their part as well. But from our end, the small impact that we do have collectively can really force that change to happen. And we're seeing that a lot, even with the plant-based movement, where, more and more companies are putting out, vegetarian and vegan alternatives because they know that that's what the market wants right now.
That's right. That's right. Sometimes plastic waste is obvious. Like, I bought a pair of sewing scissors not very long ago, and it had, I swear, 3 layers of plastic enclosing the scissors inside the packaging. But I feel like there's a lot of other hidden places where plastic waste happens. So let's talk about some of those hidden plastic wastes and ways to stop that.
Definitely. And this one is really important because when we have mixed materials, so if you have like something that's paper on the outside and plastic lined on the inside, such as a disposable coffee cup, that cannot be properly recycled. It is not worth the time and the energy that it takes to somehow separate that plastic from that paper and recycle them both. As terrible as it might seem, something that's made just of plastic that can be recycled, let's say, the cold beverage takeout cups.
Yes.
Those are less harmful in the long term. So even though people see that and they can physically see that it is plastic and they think, oh, this is bad, I'd like to prevent this. If you get that paper cup, it actually does have a layer of plastic in there. You just can't see it and it can't properly be recycled. So I think that, educating consumers is important. And I tell people I'm not anti-plastic. I'm just about reduction of waste in all terms. And any waste that cannot be recycled, reused, refurbished is a problem and needs to be addressed.
I always think of the example of the milk jugs, because milk jugs is a single material. Lid and body are composed of the same stuff, and those can be turned into a shocking number of different things, including fabrics. And that was one big surprise to me. So yes, I always wonder about the lining of things like Tetra Pak boxes. These seem to be made of about 3 different materials. There's paper products, there's a foil liner in there as well for, I'm not even sure what, and then a plastic layer as well. And it feels like, I know those were one of the earliest things we talked about being recyclable, back in the 80s and 90s, in fact. But doesn't that seem more difficult to pull apart all the layers? I mean, how is that even done? Yeah,
that's a great question. I actually don't even know the answer to how they recycle those Tetra Paks, but I know they do have, a lot of them do have deposits on them and they want people to return them. But I agree with you. I look at that and I'm like, there's a foil layer and a plastic layer and some paper on the outside, plus a lot of different inks on the, on the face of the product. So yeah, that to me looks like a logistical nightmare when it comes to recycling and recovering those resources, which again, that's what recycling is all about. We want things to not end up in landfills, and especially not in our waterways and oceans, but the resources that went into making this product in the first place. We want to recover those so that we don't need to take them out of the planet again.
And then we've all seen videos on, well, social media especially, but television as well, where they tell us that the plastics we think we've sent for recycling are actually getting dumped overseas, or worse, that they're staying local and getting mixed in with regular trash. They're just being piled in with the landfill. Like, I know I've watched my blue bin be picked up at the end of the driveway, and the stuff that I've all carefully sorted all gets thrown into the same bucket. So how do we know that our recycling is actually getting recycled?
And at the end of the day, the answer is we don't know. And there's been a lot of people who've gone in and done studies and, gone to the recycling facilities to try to get that information. And the recycling facilities are very hush hush about what actually happens and the percentage of products that are actually recycled. Here in BC, we do actually do some of our recycling in-house, but so a lot of it is sent overseas. So things that we don't have the capability to recycle here locally, it gets sent overseas. And what they find is that our contamination rates are very high. So what that means is that people are putting things into their recycling bins without cleaning them first. So if you put, let's say, a plastic peanut butter container straight into your recycling after, scooping your last little bit out, but you haven't washed it first, that is not getting recycled. Not only is it not getting recycled, it's also going to contaminate the other products that are in that batch with it. I think this is really important.
Okay, well, I hate to admit it, but I'm the not wash person because I thought I was saving water. So you're saying that's not honestly, a good idea. Okay.
Not a good idea. Yeah. So if, and I saw this recently, we had a big windstorm here in Chilliwack and it was on recycling day. So a lot of people's bins were overturned and there was recycling all over the place. So me and my kids took some buckets and some tongs and went out and did some cleanup. And, I found like sour cream containers and yogurt containers with like very obvious food debris still in them. So, my thought was, A, either these people were putting this straight into the garbage, or B, they were putting it into the recycling dirty. And that is just as bad. So it's honestly, it would be better if people are not going to wash out their products for them to put them straight in the trash, because then at least it's not going to contaminate those products. And we've seen this where there was recently, I think, 4 large shipping containers filled with what was supposed to be recycled material. And it was just stuck in Malaysia because they refused it. They refused the entire containers because they were quite obviously filled with, not just plastic, but plastic and garbage and other things that weren't supposed to be there. So it just sat there for years until, a company decided to finally take responsibility for it and take it back after several years.
Well, let's talk quickly about your business, because this is a trend that's happening all over North America. And there are other stores, as you mentioned, in the Lower Mainland. So let's talk a little bit about COVID safety and refilling your own packaging at the store and that kind of thing. So when did you first start your business?
Yeah, so our business opened in June of 2018. So, we're coming up on just past 2.5 years here. Mm-hmm. And as far as zero waste grocery stores in the Fraser Valley, we're currently the only one. There are some other stores that offer refills on some like beauty products and soaps and such. It's actually a great add-on for other businesses because, people want this. And I'm of the mindset that we need more stores like this. We need one in every city so that people have the choice to shop low waste if they so choose. And my hope, obviously, is that the bigger grocery stores catch on to the fact that, us little guys are starting to become competition. And then they, in turn, offer low waste options as well. Because let's face it, my little 2,500 square foot store cannot support all of Chilliwack shopping here. Like, we just can't. We're too small when you take a look at all the grocery stores around and how large they are. But my hope is that eventually the grocery stores will realize that this is something that customers want and that more customers will demand that.
let's talk about the challenges you've had with the health department, because COVID obviously has changed everything province-wide, well, Canada-wide, worldwide, but refillable packaging. I can't imagine what a health inspector must have said to you the first time he walked into your store and saw people refilling items that they'd brought in, jars and bottles that they brought in. So let's talk about that. How did that happen?
Yeah, so it doesn't quite work like that. Like we didn't just get to go and kind of start up our store and then they happened upon us. We had to apply through Fraser Health to get permitted to sell food in this way. So in Coastal Health Authority, which handles like Vancouver, North Vancouver, they have more experience with this. They had the soap dispensary who was refilling food products. They had Nada grocery store, which actually opened their bricks and mortar store right around the same time as we did, but they were doing pop-up shops for a couple of years before that. So they had more experience with this, whereas Fraser Health, like when I was like, oh, I want to open a zero waste grocery store and this is how we're going to do things, they were just like astounded. They're like, stop. People are going to bring in their own containers and you're going to refill them with food. And, the onus was on me to come up with a health and safety plan that showed them that we could do this safely. And at the end of it all, they, my health and safety officer said, like, you're setting the bar here. You're creating the basis of what future stores will use. And it's not that difficult. You do have to think outside the box. You do have to be a problem solver and think like, oh, okay, like what about liquids? And how am I going to make sure that, if there is contamination on a customer's container, that it doesn't end up back in our food, that we have in the store. So it's definitely tricky, but, I've worked with a lot of other small businesses that are opening zero waste stores to help them work on their health and safety plans because I kind of know my way around it now. Yeah, like I said, I want a store like this in every city. And in order for that to happen, people need help because, there's no book, there's no manual on how to open a zero waste grocery store. And, the zero waste grocery stores that are open, we're all very busy, but we're also a tight knit community and we all chat together about like challenges and struggles and, like, hey, have you figured out a solution for this? Or have you figured out where to get bulk tofu? Just things like that. So, it is great to be part of that community. I feel very grateful for, the people who came before me, who kind of started paving the way, and for the people who've come since, because now, since our store opened in 2018, there's, refilleries that just do like, soaps and body care products and not food. I swear there's at least been 50 opening across Canada.
Yeah, well, we've interviewed one. One of our earlier interviews was with Chuckling Duckling Farm, who had their own set of challenges opening and staying open during COVID. There's another episode about that. But like you said, one in every community is a necessity to support the population, the demand. It's just huge.
Yeah.
So how did you finally overcome that contamination issue with the health department? That's what I want to know. How did you finally change their minds?
Honestly, I had to get them in person. So like, obviously, like while we were doing the buildup of the store, I was going back and forth with them on like showing them how we were going to do this. And then finally, I said, like, can you please come into we were still building. So we didn't have food inside in the store yet, obviously, but I just physically showed my health and safety officer, like how we were going to refill things and like what types of barriers we were going to use to prevent contamination from customer jars getting back into our food. Once they saw it, they were like, oh, like, okay, yeah, we get it now. But, having these conversations over the phone and via email, it just wasn't working. So just having somebody come in person and just for me to kind of show them like, hey, like I care about our customers' health.
That's right.
And not only that, if a zero waste grocery store makes a mistake and a customer gets sick, that's not going to bode well for any other zero waste grocery store moving forward. So to me, it's a very big responsibility that I take very seriously, that, to not mess this up for future stores.
Exactly. And maybe you should write a manual about how to open a zero waste grocery store now that you have all this knowledge.
It's definitely, this is going to sound a little silly, but I'm not the most organized person. I do, I have, I have ADHD, which, you know, I kind of joke that it's my superpower because I'm able
It
to
is.
really like go deep into something and focus and put all my energy into it. And I do have like limitless energy when I'm passionate about something. But when it comes to like something like the idea of writing a manual, unless I had somebody working with me to actually put it together in an order that makes sense to other people, I don't think it would be very helpful to anybody.
Oh, hey, one day not too far in the future, you're going to have teenagers for that,
Yeah, definitely.
right?
Right now, I have great employees that, and you know, it's kind of the running joke that their job is to, you know, finish and clean up after what I have started and to keep me on task. So I've got a really amazing group of employees that I'm so grateful for.
Oh, wonderful. Well, let's talk about some great Fraser Valley based initiatives that are happening soon, such as Plastic Free July, which is it national or is it worldwide?
Plastic Free July is a worldwide organization.
Okay.
They are actually one of our 1% for the planet nonprofits that we support. So
Okay.
we give 1% of our gross revenue to businesses that, or sorry, not businesses, nonprofits that are putting the planet first and are making a difference. So Plastic Free July is one of the ones that we support because we really feel that the plastic problem isn't just about cure. Like it's not just about going out and cleaning up the plastic that's already out there. It's also about that, like, you know, turning off the tap and preventing it from, you know, ending up in our oceans in the first place. So Plastic Free July is great at inspiring people to reduce the amount of plastic that they use, and they make it fun and they make it accessible. So we love donating to them. And then there's, you know, if you're looking for like more local, there's the Fraser Valley Illegal Dumping Alliance, which is a group of, you know, people in the Fraser Valley that are trying to clean up our rivers. And, you know, when I look at garbage on the side of the road, I try to remind myself that not all of it was intentionally put there. Some of it blows out of the back of garbage trucks or blows out of the truck beds or,
Yes.
you know, even blows from the dumps. And I know that not all of it was intentionally thrown out. But when you look at what the Fraser Valley Illegal Dumping Alliance works with, you know, it's very clear that, you know, what they're dealing with is people who are intentionally dumping truckloads of garbage right into our rivers, like not necessarily near the rivers, but right into our Fraser River and our Vedder River and Chilliwack River. And it's atrocious. So, you know,
Yes,
I'm trying
is.
to help work with them. And yeah, so, you know, it's one of those things where, again, like I said, we need prevention and cure.
There's also a free diving project. This one surprised me the most, about cleaning up local lakes. Tell us about this.
Yeah. So I just found out about this recently. So there's this local guy named Clayton. I haven't actually met him in person yet. I've met one of his diving partners in person. His name is Steve. But Clayton is, if you want to look him up on like social media, he's called the Aquatic Monkey. So he is a free diver and he cleans up lakes. And oh my goodness, the things that he pulls out of lakes, lots of beer cans and bottles and sunglasses, but also like cell phones and safes and BB guns. So he's a really fun and interesting person to kind of follow along with. And I wanted to learn how to free dive. And I thought, like, what better way to do that than to clean up local lakes? So I was talking to Clayton and Steve about, like, you know, what kind of things that I need to keep me warm, you know, in January in our lakes in Chilliwack. So I've gone once now, and I was able to, I was able to collect a grand total of like 4 pieces of garbage. I wasn't as cold as I thought I was going to be, but this time of year, the water is quite murky. So it was really hard to see. But, you know, I figured this will be a great way for me to learn how to free dive and also do something that I'm passionate about, which is, you know, make our planet cleaner and greener. So I cannot take any credit for what they are doing and what they have been doing for years. I just think it's fantastic. And, you know, once I found out about it, I was like, I need to get involved with this and I need to, I need to be part of this and also just like support them in their efforts however I can.
Salina, your passion about this is really contagious. I think, I really hope that as people listen to this, they'll understand that they have a role to play, even though it may feel small, the impact can be huge. I feel empowered myself just listening to you. So I'm really grateful that you took the time to talk to me today. This has been wonderful. And I hope we can have you back in a little while just to sort of do a check-in and maybe talk about some more aspects of waste-free living, because I think there's obviously a bigger conversation to be had around this and more topics to discuss.
Definitely. I agree. And, it's hard to unpack all of it in one, in 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So, and there's a lot to it. And, of course, I own a zero waste grocery store. So people do kind of think of me as kind of a resource for, reducing plastic. But for me, it's not just about plastic. It's about like living a sustainable lifestyle in all areas of your life, not just waste. So that's something that, again, it makes me feel so happy that you say that that's inspiring, because that's what I aim to do. Aww. I don't want to be doing this by myself. I want to have an army of eco warriors who are out there trying to, make the world cleaner and inspire others. Because at the end of the day, a few people doing everything they can is not going to have nearly as much impact as a lot of people doing something.
That's absolutely true. Well, thank you so much. And if you'd like to hear more of our episodes, everyone, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as Fraser Valley Focus, or you can listen to every single episode at fraservalleyfocus.ca. And we hope we'll see you out in the valley. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye. Fraser Valley Focus is a product of Events Plus Management Limited, a local Langley family-owned company. The Focus is produced by Peggy Richardson and Heather Rodland. Social media for The Focus is performed by Heather Rodland. Audio engineering is performed by Peggy Richardson. Thank yous to Barb Nelson and Jeff Clay. The Focus is created and enjoyed with gratitude and respect on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, the Kwantlen, Tawasin, Katzie, and Semiahmoo. All data and content copyright Events Plus Management Limited 2020.